Rachel's mother-in-law took the microphone at her sister-in-law's wedding. Rachel held her breath. Just 3 weeks after giving birth, she stood frozen as her mother-in-law smiled and said, "Are we even sure that child is really my grandchild?" Rachel stood before the mirror, struggling to fit into a dress for the wedding. Each step toward the mirror tugged at her stitches, a quiet protest from a body not yet healed. The golden morning light streamed through the window, and for a fleeting moment, she was a child again, tending garden plants with her mother. As she adjusted the fabric over her still tender abdomen, her reflection stared back, pale skin and dark circles beneath weary eyes. They were a silent reminder that she had just given birth 3 weeks ago. From the next room came the soft, rhythmic breathing of baby Emma. The faint scent of lavender, her mother's hands, lingered in memory, a comforting ghost in this quiet hour. Jason entered, eyes glued to his phone. "We'll be late if we don't hurry." He didn't look up. Nor did he see her wince as she pulled her dress tightly. Rachel took a breath slowly and tiringly. "Do we really have to go today? Mom will be angry otherwise. It's Olivia's special day." For the briefest second, his expression softened, like the Jason she used to know. But just as quickly, it faded, swallowed by tension. Not a word about how she looked. Not a word about how she felt. In the car, Rachel sat silent, her eyes fixed on the world rushing past the window. Her mind drifted back to when she was 13. Her parents were gone in an instant. She and her 8-year-old brother Noah were clutching hands as sirens wailed and red and blue lights painted fractured glass. She could still smell the burned air, the citrus tang of her mother's perfume. That was the day they became orphans, shifted from one relative to another, always treated like burdens. She started working at 16. Entered nursing school at 18. It was not because it was easy, it was because she'd never forgotten the paramedics who fought to save her parents. Through nursing, she tried to heal what no one could heal for her. She couldn't save her own family, but she could try to save someone else's. When they arrived back home, Noah and his fiancée Sarah were waiting. Sarah, Rachel's younger friend from nursing school who is now a pediatric nurse, looked at her with concern. "Are you really going? You haven't fully recovered." "It's my sister-in-law's wedding. I can't not go." "Don't worry about Emma. Noah and I, pediatric nurse included, will take good care of her." Noah gently rested a hand on her shoulder. "Don't push yourself, Rachel." Rachel bent over Emma's crib, covering her baby in soft kisses. "Mommy will be back soon, okay?" She remembered the way Emma had smiled for the first time just last week. The tiny grip of her daughter's fingers around her own. It was a feeling so fierce, so primal, it made her want to protect her with everything she had. From the hallway, Jason called out while glancing at his watch. "I'll wait in the car." Rachel muttered under her breath. Not even a glance at her. Not even one. They arrived at a grand hotel, opulent and glittering. Jason's mother, Victoria, stood at the entrance, her eyes scanning Rachel from head to toe. "Oh, that dress. It's certainly practical, isn't it? I suppose it's all one can manage so soon after giving birth." Jason kissed his mother on the cheek. Rachel stood in silence, swallowing the humiliation. Her hands instinctively smoothed the dress she had chosen so carefully. Suddenly, it felt childish. Inadequate. Inside, chandeliers shimmered above velvet-covered tables. The room brimmed with society's elite, their judgmental eyes grazing across Rachel's figure. Victoria led her around, introducing her as my son's wife. Her tone was devoid of pride, thinly veiled apology in every syllable. Alone at the edge of a long banquet table, Rachel's thoughts drifted. She remembered Margaret, an elderly cancer patient she once cared for. Margaret had been bedridden, her body failing. Yet every afternoon, she would gaze at the window and smile. "This time of day is the most beautiful," she'd say softly, eyes glinting in the fading light. Rachel remembered the warmth of Margaret's hand, her frail fingers wrapped around hers. The steady drip of IVs, the quiet between breaths, the soft murmur of real connection. One day, Margaret had whispered, "Most people just hold my hand. But you hold something deeper. Like you feel the pain before I speak it." In Margaret's final days, she told Rachel, "You have a gift. The gift of feeling what others carry." Those words had anchored Rachel through long nights, impossible shifts, and now, through this unbearable day. The grand reception hall sparkles with elegance. Chandeliers cast warm light across crystal glasses and gold-trimmed chairs. As the newlyweds, William Harrison and Olivia, make their entrance, the room erupts in applause. Laughter rings out, champagne flows, and smiles abound. William's grandfather, Edward Harrison, delivers a brief but touching speech about the importance of family bonds. His voice holds sincerity, dignity, and a quiet wisdom earned over years. In stark contrast to this warmth, Rachel sits quietly at the far end of a long table. Though dressed for the occasion, she feels invisible. Her eyes move to Victoria, who glides through the room with a rehearsed smile, chatting with elegance that now feels desperate. What once seemed refined now strikes Rachel as a performance, an old mask clinging to relevance. Jason barely looks up from his phone. His fingers tap, flick, scroll. Rachel leans closer and whispers, "What are you doing?" He doesn't meet her eyes. "Work emails." But his expression is tense, guarded. Rachel notices his hands shaking slightly, just like the night Emma was born, when he never made it past the hospital lobby. Then, for a brief moment, he sets his phone down beside his glass. A red blinking dot appears on the screen, recording in progress. Rachel catches the name of a folder, Mother's Incidents. There are audio files inside. She blinks, confused, but Jason swiftly picks up the phone again, closing it in his hand like a secret. The host steps up and introduces Victoria Bradley with cheerful enthusiasm. She walks to the podium, beaming with pride, and begins. "Today is a proud day for our family. My daughter Olivia has joined the wonderful Harrison family, a family of heritage, class, and enduring tradition." Applause follows. Glasses clink. Victoria continues, speaking of family values, refined conduct, and suitable unions. Her words glide like silk, but the message is cold: status matters. Bloodlines matter. Appearances matter most. Rachel feels it tightening in her chest, like her body knows what's coming before her mind does. Victoria pauses. She lifts her champagne glass, sips slowly, then sets it down with poise. "Many of you know," she continues, "I have 2 children. Our beautiful bride Olivia, and my eldest son, Jason." There's a shift in the air. Her tone grows lighter, more playful, on the surface. But something acidic simmers beneath it. "Jason always had unusual taste," she says, drawing out the words. "As a boy, he brought home stray cats. Stray ideas. Things not quite ordinary." Soft chuckles ripple through the crowd. "And now, well, he married a nurse." More laughter. But it stings. Rachel's hands clench in her lap. A coldness seeps up her spine, like during emergency room nights when something went terribly wrong. Jason drains his wine in a single gulp, eyes locked to his phone. Victoria leans forward slightly, her voice dropping as though sharing a delicious secret. "My son and his nursewife welcomed a baby last month." She pauses. The crowd quiets, leaning in. But honestly. She lifts an eyebrow, smiling sweetly into the microphone. "Who even knows if that baby is really his? I mean, nurses spend all their time around doctors, don't they?" Silence. Then, a wine glass slips from someone's hand and shatters on the marble floor. A woman coughs. Someone shifts uncomfortably in a chair. A chuckle floats up, quickly smothered. Rachel's face goes pale. The tablecloth beneath her fingers feels too real, too sharp, as if it might slice skin. The edges of the room blur. Rachel turns to Jason. He doesn't look up. His hands still tremble, but he says nothing. Hey, she whispers. Aren't you going to say something? For a moment, something flickers in his eyes. A trace of the man she once loved. He opens his mouth. But then he glances toward his mother. The light goes out. He offers only a weak, guilty look. Then lowers his head again. And in that moment, Rachel breaks. Not loudly. Not visibly. But something deep and central within her, something she had stitched together with strength and patience, comes undone. She thinks of Emma. That morning, her baby's cheeks glowing with life. Tiny fingers gripping hers. Eyes full of trust. A fire rises in her chest, hotter than shame, deeper than grief. No one will insult my daughter. Not even family. Especially not family. In her mind, she hears the oath she once took as a nurse. To protect life. To honor dignity. Now she understands. That oath begins not in the hospital. It begins at home. With her. With her daughter. With the truth. As Victoria's venom-laced speech draws to a close, a strained quiet hangs in the air. A few guests offer hesitant applause, thin, obligatory claps that quickly fade. Laughter is nowhere to be found. Rachel slowly rises from her chair. Her legs tremble, but her eyes are steady, blazing with resolve. Her heartbeat hammers in her ears. She closes her eyes for just a moment. She thought to herself, if no one will speak the truth, then I will. Jason, seated beside her, blinks, startled, but not entirely surprised. He reaches out instinctively, as if to stop her, but his hand falters halfway, then drops. Rachel doesn't answer. Her gaze is fixed ahead. And she takes a step forward. All eyes turn as Rachel walks slowly toward the podium. Her steps are deliberate, hesitant, but unyielding. With each step, memories flood her mind. Her nursing school mentor's voice echoes. A healthcare provider's greatest weapon isn't knowledge, it's the will to protect dignity. Her mother's final advice. Take care of yourself. If you don't, who will? And then, Margaret's whisper returns, clear and powerful. You have a voice. Use it. Margaret's hands. Her fading but unshaken light. Those memories wrap around Rachel now, not like chains, but like an armor. Rachel reaches the microphone. Silence swallows the room. The metal is cold beneath her fingers. In the back row, Edward Harrison slowly removes his glasses. His gaze sharpens, there's a flicker of recognition. Perhaps he remembers her. The nurse who once held his wife's hand as she passed. He watches her now with quiet reverence. Victoria crosses her arms, smirking coldly. Olivia stares at her napkin, face pale, hands motionless. Inside Rachel, conflicting voices swirl. This will embarrass you. Stay quiet. It's safer. Then. Your daughter is watching. Silence teaches silence. Rachel grips the microphone. She told herself, this isn't revenge. Not against my husband. Not even against my mother-in-law. This is for me. And for my daughter. She breathes in, long and slow. And begins. Her voice trembles, but only at first. Hello. I'm Rachel Bradley. Jason's wife. And the mother of Emma, our daughter who was born just 3 weeks ago. The room holds its breath. From his chair, Jason looks up. His expression twists, shame, helplessness, and maybe, just maybe, the shadow of the man he once tried to be. His fingers dig into the tablecloth until his knuckles bleach white. Rachel continues. I came here today, like you all, to celebrate Olivia and William. But I'm standing here now because I can no longer remain silent. She glances at Jason, just once. Then looks forward again. I choose truth over silence. I've heard plenty today about lineage, status, and appearances, Rachel says. But I've held both newborns and dying hands. I've watched life enter and leave this world. And I've learned that dignity matters more than any last name or social title. Her tone shifts. Her professionalism softens. She's no longer just a nurse, but a woman, one who has bled, lost, endured. I lost my parents in an accident at 13. My little brother and I became orphans overnight. I still remember the weight of my father's hand as he pushed me away from danger. The smell of smoke mixed with my mother's perfume. She pauses, scanning the room, not pleading, not asking for sympathy. Only telling the truth. We had no place to call home. But we had to keep living. At 16, I started working. At 18, I entered nursing school, not because I wanted to escape, but because I wanted to help. Because no one deserves to face silence alone. She lifts her chin. Not a patient. Not a child. Not a woman. No one deserves to carry shame and silence. She pauses, her voice quieter now, more intimate. A terminal cancer patient I once cared for told me. This light through the window, it's the most beautiful thing in my life. Even as she faced death, she saw beauty. Because someone sat beside her. Rachel smiles gently. Her name was Margaret. When I held her hand, I understood, connection, not status, is the essence of life. In that moment, I knew. Human dignity is sacred. And 3 weeks ago, I experienced the most painful, most beautiful moment of my life. I became a mother. Her voice trembles. When Emma gripped my finger for the first time, the world changed. As Rachel lowers her gaze, a gentle shuffle interrupts the stillness. Edward Harrison rises from his seat. He walks toward the front, quiet but purposeful. St. Mary's Hospital, he says, voice calm. That was you, wasn't it? Rachel's breath catches. I worked there. Until 3 years ago. Edward nods slowly. You were Margaret's nurse. I remember your voice now. He takes out a small, worn photograph. She called you a nurse with a soul. This picture, taken by another nurse, is my wife's favorite. You're beside her. Smiling. She treasured that moment. Rachel's eyes swell with tears. She remembers the orange light in Margaret's room, their quiet talks about sunrises and legacies. Her hand. Her strength. Edward places a hand on Rachel's shoulder. She passed away peacefully. Because of you. Edward turns to the crowd. My wife used to say, a person's true worth isn't in what they own, but in how they love. He looks to Rachel. Today, I believe she is smiling. Rachel cannot speak, only nod. Edward continues softly, you remind us all what dignity truly is. Around the room, something stirs. Silent tears. Soft exhales. The shift of hearts. Suddenly, Victoria stands. This is Olivia's wedding, she barks. But her voice lands flat. Cold glances meet hers. Even Olivia takes a step away, blinking rapidly. Edward meets Victoria's eyes. A wedding, he says, is a celebration of love, of human connection. Today, we are reminded what that actually means. Victoria falters. Her mouth opens. Then closes. She sits down. Alone. Rachel thanks Edward with a quiet nod and begins to walk back toward her seat. Jason watches her. His phone screen still reads, recording in progress. He hesitates. Then, without a word, he deletes the file. Not because it wasn't worth keeping. But because some truths are meant to be lived. Not stored. Rachel passes him. Her voice is calm. I didn't speak out of anger, she says. I spoke so that our daughter grows up knowing her worth. Jason can't answer. He just nods, his eyes clouded, searching for something somewhere. As she returns to her seat, the atmosphere in the room slowly resumes. Light clinks of cutlery, murmured conversation. But everything has changed. People glance at Rachel with something new. Respect. Olivia, standing beside her husband, catches Rachel's eye. She gives her a small, sincere nod. Not of apology, but of acknowledgement. And for the first time that day, Olivia truly sees her. After the wedding, Rachel quietly gathers her belongings, preparing to leave. Her face is marked with exhaustion, but her eyes are clear, calm, resolute. She waits in the hotel lobby for her brother. Jason appears, tentative. "Rachel," he says. "There's something I want you to hear." She looks at him, wary. "What is it?" Jason pulls out his phone. A file titled "The Speech" is visible. Without a word, he deletes it. "I needed to hear it," he says. "But I don't need to keep it." His voice wavers. "I started recording my mother months ago. I wanted to collect proof, evidence of how damaging she can be. But when it really mattered, I froze. I didn't speak. I was a coward." Jason exhales deeply, guilt shadowing his face. "After my dad's suicide, my mom changed. I thought I had to carry her pain, protect her. But that's no excuse." Rachel listens, then answers softly. "What I need now is space. But maybe, for Emma's sake, someday we'll learn to speak again. Not as husband and wife, but as two people trying to do better." Jason nods, silently stepping back. Edward Harrison approaches with a calm smile. "Rachel, may I speak with you a little more?" Jason moves aside, granting them privacy. Edward sits on the lobby sofa, facing her. "In Margaret's final days," he begins, "you meant the world to her. She said, this nurse carries light inside her." He gazes out the window, thoughtful. "She taught me that what matters at the end of life isn't legacy or wealth, but how much you loved and were loved." Rachel's voice is hushed. "Margaret was one of the most remarkable patients I ever met. Even through her pain, she gave me wisdom and grace." Edward turns back to her. "Our family runs a healthcare foundation. We'll be expanding a patient support program, and I'd like you to consider joining us when the time is right. I know you're focused on Emma now, but if the opportunity arises." Rachel is stunned and touched. "I'm honored. Right now, Emma comes first. But someday, I'd love to return to work that truly means something." Edward smiles. "There's no rush. Margaret used to say, everything in its time." Outside, a car pulls up. Rachel's brother Noah steps out with Sarah, his fiancée, holding sleeping baby Emma in her arms. Rachel rushes over and gathers her daughter into her arms. The soft weight, the warmth, the scent, everything centers her again. "Thank you," she says to Sarah. "You've been amazing." Sarah grins. "We're family. We've got your back." Edward greets Noah and gently looks at Emma. "This child has a bright future." Just then, Olivia steps cautiously into the lobby. "Rachel," she says. "Can we talk?" Rachel hesitates, then nods. "What my mother said, it was awful," Olivia admits. "I knew it was wrong. But I didn't know how to stop her. I froze." Rachel looks into her eyes, seeing honesty. "It's not easy to stand up to someone like that. But you're trying. That counts." Olivia nods slowly. "Can I visit Emma sometime?" Rachel hesitates. Trust takes time. But Emma deserves people who care. After a breath, she adds, "Yes. You can." She holds Emma forward. Olivia's eyes shimmer as she extends her finger. Emma wraps her tiny hand around it. "Hi, Emma," Olivia whispers. "Maybe we can start over, too." Rachel now works part-time at a small pediatric clinic, helping run a patient support program funded by the Harrison Foundation. It's a gentle, steady, and meaningful work. Edward visits sometimes to read picture books to Emma. Margaret always said true wealth is what you leave behind for the next generation. Jason remains in therapy, working through his trauma. He never asks for forgiveness. But he visits Emma faithfully, always bringing her a new book. He speaks to Rachel now with clarity, not as a partner, but as a co-parent who's finally learning to listen. Olivia visits too, shedding her mother's shadow and forging her own identity. She brings handmade toys and listens more than she speaks. One evening, Rachel stands on the balcony, holding Emma close. Emma's breath is soft. Her hands, warm and certain. Rachel whispers, "Emma, I want you to grow up knowing when to speak and when to listen. But never, ever, doubt your worth. Life doesn't always scream when it breaks. Sometimes it whispers, in a wedding speech or a hospital room. But if you listen closely, the truth is always there. Each time we speak instead of staying silent, we become a little more free. And sometimes, healing begins quietly, like light slipping through a crack you never knew was there." Emma nestles into her mother's chest. And Rachel understands. Sometimes, survival is the boldest thing you can do. And maybe courage isn't loud. It's quiet. Steady. Like a mother holding on when everything tells her to let go. And in that stillness, Rachel becomes more than a mother. More than a nurse. She becomes a woman who chooses truth. And builds a life from it.